Here we'll be looking at volumes of prisms and cylinders. Remember what volume is. It's a measure of the amount of space contained inside of a solid. And it's usually measured in cubic inches or cubic centimeters, but always in some cubic unit of measure. We'll start with a postulate that says that the volume of a cube is the length of one of the sides that has been cubed. Remember, a cube is a regular polyhedron, so that all of the sides are congruent squares, and so the length of the edge for each edge is the same. So if I find the area of the base and multiply it times the height, then what I get is S cubed. The volume congruence postulate says that if two polyhedra are congruent, then they have the same volume. And the volume addition postulate says that if it's made up of different shapes, that you can find the volume of the individual parts and then add them together as long as they're not overlapping. So let's look at this example. We're wanting to know the volume of this puzzle piece, where each of these little squares is 1 unit cube. So what we'll do is we'll divide this up into sections. First we'll look at the base. The base is 7 cubes long and 2 deep, so 7 times 2 is 14. The upper left-hand box is 2 wide and 2 deep, so that is 4 unit cubes. And the upper right is 1 wide and 2 deep, so that is 2 unit cubes. So we simply add those together, excuse me, to get my total volume, which is 20 cubic units. The volume of a prism. To find the volume of a prism, all I need to do is find the area of the base of that prism and multiply it times its height. The volume of a cylinder is the same thing, except this time the base is a circle, but I still find the area of the base and multiply it times the height. So volume is a little simpler than surface area, in that you just get the area of the base and simply multiply times how tall it is. So finding the volume of this right trapezoidal prism. For this right trapezoidal prism, I need to find the area of the base. Remember, the area of the base of a prism is 1/2 the height times the sum of the bases, or you can do it as the height times the mid-segment, which is half of the sum of the bases. Either way, you get 30 square centimeters for the area of the base. Its height is 5 centimeters, so my volume can be found by multiplying my 30 centimeters squared times my 5 centimeters, and notice that ends up with cubic centimeters because I multiplied square centimeters times centimeters. For a right cylinder, I'm going to find the area of the base, which is pi r squared, which comes out to be 81 pi, and the height is 6. So I'm going to multiply my 81 pi square feet times 6 square feet, or 6 feet, excuse me. That would be 486 pi cubic feet, or about 1,526.8 cubic feet. Sometimes we may need to solve for the length of a side. If I've got a cube with 90 cubic inches and I want to find x, what I need to do is use my formula that the volume is x cubed, and plug in my value of 90 cubic inches and take the cube root of both sides. I get 4.48 inches. Remember, we get our cube root using our TI-83 calculator by going to the math function, the math button, and it is the 4th function down. Find the volume of this puzzle piece, so I'll let you have a second to give it a try. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this into 2 parts. I'm going to look at the bottom part of this, which is 3 units long, 1 unit deep, and 2 units wide. So 3 times 1 times 2 gives me 6 units cubed. And this one up here is just 1 more, so I have 7 units cubed total. Find the volume of a square prism that has a base edge length of 5 feet and a height of 12. Well, remember, it is the area of the base. So the volume is the base area times the height, Well, my base area is 5 squared multiplied times 12, and that gives me 300 cubic feet. Find the volume, it tells me the volume of a right cylinder, and it asks me and tells me the height, and it wants me to find the radius. So remember, when we do our cylinder, it is the area of the base. Volume is the area of the base, which is pi r squared multiplied times h. So in this case, the volume is 684 pi, and h is 18, so that is 18h, or 18 pi is equal to r squared. So we divide both sides by 18 pi, and we get r squared is 38. So we take the square root, and we have the square root of 38. Cavalieri's principle simply states that if the cross-section area is the same as the base, or is the same all the way through, then I can find my volume whether it is oblique or whether it is a right prism. This gives us the ability to do that. Our volume of our oblique works the same as our volume of our regular. I will find the area of the base, which is pi r squared, multiply it times the height. So pi times 4 squared times 7 gives me 112 pi. So that is about 351.86 cubic centimeters. Find the volume of this oblique prism. Same thing, I have a right triangle as my base. So I will do 1/2 base times height to get the area of that right triangle, multiply it times h. So my volume is 1/2 times base, which is 9, times height, which is 5, and multiply that times 8. And it turns out to be 180 meters cubed. The volume of this solid. Now I want you to notice what this has done. They have cut out a square prism out of the middle of a rectangular or a triangular prism. So for me to do this, I'm going to have to find the volume of the triangular prism and then subtract away the volume of the square prism. To get the volume of my triangular prism, I need to find the area of this triangle. So I'm going to drop my altitude down. Remember, this splits that in half. So if I want to find the height of this triangle, I will say that the height is the square root of the hypotenuse squared minus the leg square. So we can work that out as the square root of 10 squared minus 5 squared. And we see that that is approximately 8.66. So what I need, h is 8.66. So my area of my triangle is 1/2 base times height. So that is 1/2, the base is 10, the height is 8.66. So I can find that area as 43.3, approximately 43.3. And then I will need to multiply that. So remember that what my volume of that cube, volume of the cube minus the volume of the, that is not a cube, that is the volume of a triangular prism minus the volume of the square prism. And so my volume of my triangular prism is the area of the base multiplied times the height, which is 6 feet in this case, minus the area of the square prism, which is 3 along each side, so 3 square times the depth, which is 6, and so that comes out to be 205.81 cubic